Hey, this is Dr. Alduan Tartt, Christian psychologist. George Washington Carver is quoted as saying, 99% of the failures come from people who make excuses. There's also a Chinese proverb that says, excuses no cook rice. What that means is that the excuses don't cook rice. You actually have to put the work in to cook the rice. But as a psychologist, what what happens when you don't feel like you're making excuses? What if you say, Lord, I am doing the best I can with what I have, but I don't have enough to pay Georgia Power. I don't have enough to fund my business to leave my job. I don't have enough security to leave this toxic relationship, to be single for the hope of getting into a better relationship because the person I'm in a toxic relationship with is taking care of my bills. What if you don't feel like you're making excuses? What if you feel like you're just talking about life and that's how it is? If that's you, I have a word from you. It comes from 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. And it's the story of where Elisha helps a widow. I'm going to read some of it. I'm going to, paraphrase and break it down so that you can get it. Okay. So one day, a widow from a group of prophets that had worked with Elisha cried out, my husband worked for you. You know how he feared the Lord, and we don't have any money, and creditors have come and they want my sons as slaves because I cannot pay the bill. What do I do, Elisha? Help me. All right. Elisha did not give them money. Instead, he asked, well, what do you have? And she said, all I have is a flask of oil. He says, okay, well, go ask your neighbors. Have your sons go ask your neighbors all around you for some containers. And when they came back with the containers, God performed a miracle to where no matter how much oil she poured in, every jar was filled. And then the widow saw she was running out. And she says, hey, hand me another jar. And the son says, that's all we have. And at that point, the oil stopped flowing. And so at that point, it said, well, there aren't any more, he told her. And then the olive oil stopped flowing. When she told the man of God what had happened, he said to her, now sell the olive oil, all right, and pay your debts. You can live on the rest from the profits of the oil. Now, what relevance does that have to you? One, it is interesting that Elisha the prophet did not give her money. Sometimes we can enable ourselves and we can enable others by giving them things that don't allow them to be strong. When my wife and I were blessed enough to go to Costa Rica, we went to the jungle and kind of a tour, and they asked us not to feed the monkeys. And we said, why? We wanted to feed the monkeys, get a picture. And they said, because the first season that we did that, we had a lot of monkeys die after the tourists left because they got so used to eating the fruit from tourists when they actually had to swing miles to get fruit. They died because their muscles atrophied. They were too weak. Before, they were able to go miles and miles and miles to look for fruit in the trees. But after the tourists left, they didn't do that for 3 or 4 months. We can do the same thing with our sons and our daughters and our friends and our husbands and our wives and our cousins and people we help out that have the ability to do for themselves, but they don't see it. So you have to make sure that you don't empower them, you don't enable them, because they'll never get empowered. All right, so that's the first thing. Don't enable, empower. Number 2, do you ask God for help? Or do you sink into this depression and saying, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. This world is so cruel, and it is. All right, do you say, God, help me? God, help me. If you're an atheist and you just don't believe, this is a conversion opportunity to trust God. But here's how God operates. He's not going to give you a windfall of cash. He's not like an ATM. All right. A lot of times he will give you a vision. He will give you an idea. He will give you an opportunity for you to be able to see a vision and execute. All right. So he gave her, all right, what do you have? Fill these jars up with oil. So what is it that you have? What's your oil? What idea do you have that you can work? All right. What's interesting is that as soon as they ran out of jars, the olive oil stopped flowing. And what that says is that God will meet you at your level of faith and obedience. Had they borrowed more jars and more containers, they would have been even richer. But they just said, well, let's just go get enough for what we think we can get. And a lot of times our brain is so small, we don't even think about God's abundance. We don't even think what could possibly happen. And this is why the innovators and those that are able to operate in faith are ahead right now in this country. Jeff Bezos with Amazon says, hey, I can level the playing field. I can make people sell something all over the world and just go to Amazon and everyone's an equal vendor. Netflix, I can produce original TV because TV is conservative. I can be bold and provocative and be innovative and look at Netflix stock. Look at Activision in gaming. There are people that are filling arenas just to watch people play video games. The top video game gamers made over $1 million last year. That's innovation. So we're in an age of innovation, knowledge, technology. You can innovate. What is it that you have? God will meet you at your level of faith. So stop asking what you don't have. Stop making excuses and look and see what you have. Ask other people. People make you stronger. Get out of your own head and ask people, and then you're into their heads. It's called the wisdom of crowds. The more people you ask, the smarter you get. Even if you reject their idea, it'll allow you to be smarter, okay? So I'm Dr. Tartt. I want you to operate in abundance. I want you to get rid of this notion that God's just going to give you this landfall of cash, but he will give you a rich mindset and will give you a rich work ethic if you'll meet him with obedience and faith. You will look up and you'll have generational wealth, and you'll be able to move out of that rat race that you're in right now and that stress that you're in right now, and you'll be able to pay other people's bills for generation to come. I'm Dr. Tartt. Take care and God bless. I love you. Stop making excuses and move into action and empower yourself.